They say your wedding day should be the happiest day of your life. The one day where everything feels magical, like a fairy tale come true. And honestly, that morning, I truly believed it would be. I woke up to golden sunlight pouring through my bedroom window. My stomach was full of butterflies, the nervous kind, but also the excited kind. My bridesmaids were already buzzing around, giggling, helping each other with makeup, and whispering about how beautiful the day was going to be. I remember standing in front of the mirror, looking at myself, and thinking, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for my whole life. The venue had been decorated exactly the way I dreamed. Rows of white chairs lined the garden, soft pastel flowers wrapped around the arch, and fairy lights twinkled, even though the sun was shining. The smell of roses and jasmine floated through the air, mixing with the sound of music as the DJ tested his speakers. It felt like a scene pulled straight out of a romantic movie. And then there was Daniel, my fiancé, my soon-to-be husband. Just the thought of him made me smile. He was the man who had promised me forever, the man who made me laugh until my stomach hurt, the man who once told me he couldn't imagine a single day of his life without me. Everyone said we were perfect together, and I believed them. I believed in him. Guests began to arrive one by one, all dressed in their best clothes. My relatives carried gifts and smiles. His family looked proud and happy, and friends snapped photos, posting about the wedding of the year. Every person who walked in added to the excitement building inside me. People hugged me, told me I looked radiant, and wished me a lifetime of happiness. And I believed them. I thought nothing could go wrong. But here's the thing about life. It has a cruel way of proving you wrong when you least expect it. As I sat in the bridal room, my makeup artist brushing the last bit of blush across my cheeks, I felt this odd flutter in my chest. At first, I brushed it off as nerves. After all, who wouldn't be nervous on their wedding day? But this feeling was different. It wasn't just butterflies. It was heavier, almost like my body was warning me that something was coming. Still, I smiled through it. I laughed with my bridesmaids, held onto my bouquet, and told myself that it was just pre-wedding jitters. Everyone says brides get nervous. So, maybe that's all it was. But looking back, I know better. That wasn't nerves. That was instinct. That was my heart, already sensing the storm that was about to hit me. I kept glancing around the room, searching for my sister, Emily. She was supposed to be my maid of honor, my rock, the one person who promised she'd be by my side every second of this day. But strangely, she wasn't there. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe she was talking to guests or helping with last-minute details. But minutes turned into nearly an hour, and she still hadn't come to check on me. That wasn't like her at all. Emily had always been the type to fuss over me, fixing my hair, making sure my lipstick was perfect, reminding me to breathe. I remember asking one of the bridesmaids, "Have you seen Emily?" She hesitated for a moment, then shrugged and said, "Oh, she's just busy." Busy. Busy with what? Everyone else was here. Everyone else was waiting. So what could possibly be keeping my maid of honor away from me on the biggest day of my life? That question kept circling my mind. But I shook it off. I told myself she'd be back any second, smiling, ready to walk me down the aisle. Still, a tiny part of me couldn't ignore the chill creeping up my spine. Everything looked perfect. The flowers, the music, the guests, even the man waiting for me at the altar. But beneath all that beauty, there was something ugly, something I couldn't see yet, something I wasn't prepared for. I wish I could go back to that moment, to the version of me sitting in that bridal room, clutching her bouquet, smiling through nerves, because she had no idea what was about to happen. She had no idea that in just a short while, her entire world would shatter into pieces. What I didn't know then was that behind the laughter, behind the sparkle of the fairy lights, behind the happy faces of my guests, a secret was hiding, one so cruel, so shocking, that it would destroy everything I believed in about love, trust, and family. And that secret was waiting just a few steps away. They say a bride's nerves are normal on her wedding day. Butterflies, shaky hands, even tears. It's all part of the moment. At least, that's what everyone around me kept telling me. But what I was feeling wasn't normal. It wasn't just nervousness. It was something deeper, heavier. Like my body was trying to warn me about something my eyes hadn't seen yet. I sat in the dressing room while my bridesmaids fluttered around me, fixing my veil, adjusting my gown, and complimenting how stunning I looked. They laughed, snapped selfies, and gushed about how the day felt like a dream come true. On the outside, I smiled and played along, but on the inside, I couldn't ignore the uneasy pounding of my heart. It was as if the room itself felt different. The air was heavy, the kind that makes you stop and breathe a little slower. I tried to brush it off as nothing. After all, I was about to walk down the aisle to marry Daniel, the man I had dreamed of sharing my life with. What could possibly be wrong? Then it hit me. Emily, my sister, my maid of honor, the one who had promised to stand by me from the moment I said yes to the moment I said I do. Emily had been my partner in everything growing up. We shared secrets, clothes, and even heartbreaks. She wasn't just my sister. She was my best friend. And on this day, she was supposed to be the one holding my bouquet, wiping my tears, and reminding me to breathe. But she wasn't there. All morning she had been absent. Not once had she come to check on me. Not once had she popped her head into the room to see if I needed anything. At first, I didn't notice because the chaos of a wedding can make anyone disappear for a while. But as time passed, her absence became more and more obvious. I asked one of the bridesmaids, "Have you seen Emily? She should be here by now." The bridesmaid paused, exchanging a quick glance with another girl before answering too casually, "Oh, she's busy. You know Emily. Probably running around making sure things are perfect." Her words were meant to reassure me, but something about the way she said busy didn't sit right. Busy with what? The flowers were already arranged. The guests were already seated. The schedule was set. The only thing left to do was wait for the ceremony. I nodded and pretended to accept the explanation, but my mind didn't let it go. I knew Emily. She wasn't the type to wander off at a time like this. She would have been glued to my side, fussing over every little detail of my dress and whispering jokes to calm my nerves. Something was off. I tried to distract myself, staring at the bouquet of roses in my lap. The petals were soft and perfect, just like the picture I had shown the florist months ago. I thought focusing on details might ease my anxiety, but no matter how hard I tried, my thoughts kept circling back to Emily's absence. Where is she? Why hasn't she checked in? Another 15 minutes passed. Still no sign of her. Guests were laughing outside. The DJ's music floated faintly through the walls, and my bridesmaids were chatting, but I couldn't hear any of it. All I could hear was the thumping of my own heart. Finally, I stood up. "I'm going to find her," I said firmly. One of my bridesmaids tried to stop me. No, you shouldn't be walking around before the ceremony. It's bad luck. Remember, just relax. She'll be back." But I wasn't convinced. Something in me, call it instinct, call it intuition, refused to sit still. "I'll be quick," I told them, forcing a smile. "I just need to see her." And with that, I slipped out of the bridal suite. The hallway was quiet, almost eerily so, compared to the noise outside. My heels clicked softly against the floor as I walked. the sound echoing like a metronome in my ears. Every corner I turned, every door I passed, my chest tightened. It felt like I was being pulled by an invisible string towards something I wasn't supposed to see. I asked a server carrying drinks, "Excuse me, have you seen Emily, my maid of honor?" The server hesitated before shaking his head. "I think she was with, someone earlier. Not sure where they went." That answer only made my stomach twist harder. "With who? Doing what?" I quickened my pace, my gown rustling with each step. The laughter and music outside faded the deeper I went into the quiet halls of the venue. My breath grew shallow, and my hands started to shake. It was like I already knew that whatever I was about to discover, it wasn't going to be good. And I was right, because at the end of that hallway, behind a half-closed door, I heard voices, familiar voices, voices that froze me in my tracks. Daniel and Emily. The hallway felt endless as I walked toward the sound of those voices. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, but no, the more I moved forward, the clearer it became. The deep, familiar tone of Daniel's voice, the softer, nervous laugh of Emily, my fiancé and my sister, together, alone. My chest tightened as I crept closer, each step heavier than the last. I told myself I must be imagining things, that maybe they were just talking about wedding details. But if that was true, why did they sound so hushed, so secretive? Finally, I stopped outside a door slightly ajar. The faint glow of light spilled out into the hallway. My palms grew clammy, my breath shallow. My heart was pounding so loudly, I was afraid they'd hear it. I leaned in, straining to catch their words. "Are you sure about this?" I heard Emily whisper. Daniel's voice came next, firm but tense. "We've gone too far to back out now." My knees nearly buckled. Back out of what? My mind spun, trying to piece together what they meant. Against every instinct screaming at me to turn away, I pushed the door open, and that's when my world shattered. The sight before me didn't make sense. Emily, my sister, my maid of honor, stood in the middle of the room wearing a white bridal dress, a gown almost identical to mine. She wasn't dressed as a guest, or even as my maid of honor. She was dressed as a bride. My eyes darted to Daniel, my fiancé, the man who was supposed to be waiting for me at the altar. He stood facing her, his expression tense and conflicted. His hands fidgeted as though he had been caught doing something unforgivable. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. It was like a nightmare had taken shape right in front of me. Finally, words tumbled out of my mouth, shaky and broken. What is going on here?" Both of them froze. Emily's face went pale, her eyes wide with shock. Daniel turned toward me slowly, his mouth opening and closing, as if searching for the right excuse. The silence in the room was suffocating, pressing down on me like a weight I couldn't lift. I stepped forward, my voice louder now, almost demanding. "Why are you wearing a wedding dress, Emily? Why are you with Daniel? Explain yourselves. Now!" Daniel lifted his hands as if to calm me. "It's not what it looks like," he began, his voice trembling. But before he could finish, Emily cut him off. She stepped closer to me, her lips trembling, tears brimming in her eyes. I was going to tell you, but I couldn't. Not like this. Not today." Her words sent ice through my veins. "Not like this." What did that even mean? I stared at the two of them, searching for an explanation that made sense. But nothing did. My sister, the person I trusted most, the person I thought would protect me from heartbreak, was standing there in a dress meant for a bride. My bride. And Daniel, the man I loved, looked like a guilty child caught stealing. "Tell me the truth," I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of betrayal. "Why are you dressed like that, Emily? Why are you with him?" The silence stretched painfully, the air so thick I could barely breathe. Every beat of my heart felt like a hammer against my chest. My bouquet slipped from my hand, petals scattering across the floor like pieces of my shattered dream. Inside, I felt myself breaking. Confusion twisted with rage. My mind screamed at me to run, to scream, to wake up from this nightmare, but my legs were frozen in place. Emily looked at Daniel, then back at me. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came out at first. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck, his eyes glued to the ground, refusing to meet mine. The silence was worse than any explanation could have been. Finally, Emily took a deep, shaky breath. "I can't hide it anymore," she whispered. "You deserve to know the truth." My stomach dropped. My heart begged her not to say the words I already feared, because deep down I knew. I just didn't want to believe it. The room spun around. Me. The white of her dress blurred with the pale color of Daniel's face. The air felt like it had been sucked out, leaving me gasping. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a silly prank. This was betrayal. And in that moment, as the truth hung in the air, unspoken but obvious, I realized my wedding day, the day I thought would be filled with love and laughter, had turned into the darkest day of my life. My voice cracked as I demanded, "What is going on here?" The room went silent. Daniel froze like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar, his face draining of color. Emily's eyes darted between him and me, wide and glistening with tears. Neither of them moved. For a long, suffocating second, the only sound was my heart hammering in my chest. Finally, Daniel opened his mouth. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered, his voice shaky, like he didn't even believe his own words. But before he could finish, Emily suddenly stepped forward. Her movements were trembling but deliberate, like she had been holding something in for too long. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "I have to tell you something. I can't keep this secret any longer." My stomach dropped. My whole body trembled as my mind spun in a million directions. What secret? What was she about to say? I shook my head in disbelief, my hands trembling so badly, I almost dropped the bouquet still clutched in my grip. "Emily, this isn't funny," I choked out. "You're my maid of honor, not the bride. Why are you dressed like this? Why are you with him?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out at first. Her lips trembled, her chest heaving like the weight of her confession was crushing her. I turned my gaze to Daniel, my eyes searching for an answer in his face, but he refused to meet my eyes. He stared at the floor, his jaw tight, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. That silence, the silence between the two people I loved most, was more terrifying than any words. "Answer." "Me!" I screamed, my voice cracking, raw with rage and desperation. "Someone tell me what is going on." Daniel finally looked up, his eyes red and full of guilt. I didn't want you to find out like this." "Find out what?" My mind was screaming, begging for clarity, but at the same time, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want the truth, because I already knew it was going to destroy me. Emily stepped closer, reaching out as if to touch me, but I jerked back like her hand was poison. "Don't!" I spat, my voice low but trembling. "Don't you dare touch me." Her tears fell harder. "I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you, but I can't lie to you anymore." I shook my head violently, covering my ears for a moment, like a child refusing to hear bad news. Stop it, Emily. Just stop. This isn't real. This is some kind of sick joke, right? Tell me it's a joke. But her silence said it all. The image of her in that wedding dress burned in my mind. The dress wasn't just a costume. It was a symbol, a declaration. She wasn't here to support me. She was here to take my place. The weight of betrayal crushed me, stealing the air from my lungs. These were the two people I trusted most in the entire world, my sister and the man I was supposed to marry. And now they were standing together, holding a secret that had been kept from me until the very moment it was too late. I turned my rage on Daniel. How could you? My voice broke. After everything we've been through, after all the promises, all the nights you said you loved me, you do this with her? My own sister. He tried to step closer, his hands raised in some pathetic attempt to calm me. Please, just listen. Listen, I snapped, my voice echoing through the room. To what? More lies? More excuses? Emily sobbed, openly now, covering her face with her hands. But I couldn't find it in myself to pity her. Not when she was the one who had driven a knife into my back. I felt my body trembling so hard, it was hard to stand. My knees wanted to give out. My chest ached like it was physically breaking apart. But I refused to collapse in front of them. I refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing me completely destroyed. So I lifted my chin, my tears blurring my vision, and said in a voice colder than I thought I could manage, "One of you better start talking, because if you don't tell me the truth right now, I swear you'll never see me again. Not as a sister, not as a bride, not as anything." The words hung heavy in the air. Emily's sobs quieted into sniffles. Daniel swallowed hard, his atoms apple bobbing as if he was about to finally confess. And in that moment, I braced myself, because deep down, I knew that whatever came out of their mouths next would change my life forever. Emily's chest rose and fell as she took a deep, shaky breath. Her eyes locked onto mine, full of tears, but also a strange kind of determination, like she had already decided there was no turning back. Then, with a trembling voice that felt like a knife slicing through my chest, she said the words that destroyed me. "Daniel and I have been in love for months. We didn't mean for it to happen, but we couldn't stop it. He told me he's not ready to marry you. He wants to be with me instead." For a moment, time stopped. The room spun. The walls seemed to close in, and I swear I couldn't hear anything but the deafening sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I stared at her, my own sister, the girl I grew up sharing toys, secrets, and late-night talks with, the same sister who used to braid my hair and laugh with me until our stomachs hurt, and now she was standing in front of me, admitting she had stolen the one person I thought would stand by me forever. My throat closed up, making it impossible to breathe. My bouquet slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a dull thud, scattering petals across the room. Each petal felt like a piece of my heart, falling and breaking apart. I turned my gaze to Daniel, desperate for him to deny it, to tell me Emily was lying, to tell me this was some horrible misunderstanding. But he didn't. He couldn't even look at me. His eyes were fixed on the floor, his jaw clenched, his face pale with guilt. That silence, his refusal to defend me, was the answer I dreaded. I felt the ground rip out from beneath me. My entire world, the future I had imagined, collapsed in a single moment. My voice cracked as I whispered, How could you?" But it wasn't just a question for Emily or Daniel. It was for the universe, for fate, for life itself. How could everything I believed in, love, family, loyalty, turn out to be nothing but lies. Emily stepped forward, her hands shaking. I swear we didn't plan this. It just happened. We tried to fight it, but her words trailed off, as if she realized nothing she said could possibly make it right. Shook my head, my tears burning hot trails down my cheeks. You tried to fight it. My voice grew louder, filled with rage. You're my sister. You were supposed to protect me, not betray me. And you… I turned toward Daniel, my voice sharp as broken glass. You promised me forever. You promised me love. And now you're throwing it all away for her. On our wedding day, Daniel finally lifted his eyes to meet mine. His face was twisted with guilt, but not regret, not love. His silence was worse than any excuse he could have given. My knees buckled, and I grabbed the edge of a chair to steady myself. It felt like my chest was caving in, like I couldn't pull enough air into my lungs. I wanted to scream, to cry, to collapse, but instead, I stood there, frozen in shock, my heart shattering into a million jagged pieces. Every memory of Daniel flashed before my eyes, the late-night talks, the promises whispered under the stars, the moment he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him, and every single one of those memories now felt tainted, poisoned by the image of him standing beside my sister in a wedding dress. I looked at Emily again, searching her face for any sign of remorse, any hint that she realized the devastation she had caused. But all I saw was fear, mixed with a selfish kind of longing. She wasn't sorry for falling in love with him. She was sorry for getting caught. My chest ached with betrayal, so deep it almost felt physical, like someone had reached inside me and ripped my heart out, my own sister, my own fiancé, together, behind my back, and on the day I was supposed to celebrate the happiest moment of my life. I wanted to scream until my voice gave out. I wanted to tear the dress off her body, to grab Daniel by the collar and demand answers. But instead, I stood there trembling, broken, realizing that nothing I said could change the truth. Everything I thought I knew about love, family, and trust had crumbled in front of me. At that moment, one thing became painfully clear. My wedding wasn't just ruined. My entire life, everything I had been building toward, was gone in a single breath. The moment the words left Emily's mouth, I couldn't stay in that room any longer. My chest felt like it was collapsing. My vision blurred with tears, and my legs moved before my brain even caught up. I bolted. I yanked the door open and ran into the hallway, the sound of my sobs echoing against the walls. My heels clicked frantically on the polished floor as I tried to outrun the pain clawing at my chest. But I didn't make it far before the world around me noticed. Guests turned, heads swiveled, conversations hushed into silence. All eyes fell on me, the bride, crying uncontrollably, my mascara streaking down my cheeks, my veil askew, my bouquet gone. Whispers rippled through the hall like wildfire. What happened? Why is she crying? Is she okay? I tried to wipe my tears, tried to compose myself, but it was no use. My body shook too hard, my heart broke in too deeply. I couldn't hide the truth, even if I wanted to. Then came the sound I dreaded, footsteps behind me. Daniel and Emily, they followed me out, their presence like daggers stabbing deeper into my back. Emily's voice cracked as she called out, "Wait! Please, just listen!" The crowd gasped as she appeared, dressed in a white wedding gown. My wedding gown's twin. Murmurs erupted immediately. Why is she wearing that? Isn't that the sister? What's going on here? I heard it all. Every whisper, every gasp, every sharp intake of breath. and I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. Daniel trailed behind her. His head hung low, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. He looked like a guilty man caught in the act, but worse. He let Emily take the lead, letting her speak while he stood there in cowardly silence. My parents pushed through the crowd, their faces pale with confusion. My mother reached for me, her hand trembling. "Sweetheart, what's happening? Talk to me." But I couldn't answer. My throat locked up. The words stuck behind the lump of pain swelling inside me. All I could do was shake my head, sobbing harder. Emily, meanwhile, stood in front of everyone, clutching the skirt of her gown like she was bracing herself. "I didn't want to hurt you," she cried, her voice loud enough for the guests to hear. But I couldn't lie anymore. I had to tell her the truth. Gasps filled the room. My relatives exchanged horrified glances, hands flying to their mouths in shock. Some guests whispered frantically, trying to piece together the scandal, unraveling before their eyes. I could barely stand. My father caught me by the arm, steadying me before I collapsed. His face was red, his jaw clenched, his eyes flashing with fury as he glared at Daniel. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice trembling with rage. Daniel opened his mouth, but quickly closed it again. He had no defense, no excuse. He just stood there, frozen, while my entire world burned around me. The whispers grew louder, sharper. They betrayed her, her fiancé and her sister, on her wedding day. Every word cut into me like glass. This wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation. My private heartbreak was now a public spectacle. I pulled away from my parents, my voice breaking, as I finally screamed, "Stop!" The hall went silent. All eyes stayed on me. My chest heaved with sobs, but I forced the words out anyway. "You want the truth? Here it is. My sister and my fiancé are in love. They've been betraying me for months, and today they decided to confess." The crowd erupted. Gasps, angry mutters, disgusted looks. People turned on Daniel and Emily, shaking their heads in disbelief. Some of my relatives cursed under their breath. Others pulled me into their arms to comfort me, but nothing could soothe the pain tearing me apart. Emily sobbed, holding her hands out toward me. "I'm sorry. Please believe me. I never wanted it to happen this way." I stumbled backward, glaring at her through my tears. "You didn't want it, Emily. You could have stopped it the second you realized how wrong it was. But you didn't. You lied to me. You smiled at me while sneaking behind my back. And you—" I turned toward Daniel, my voice breaking into a scream. "You stood there and let her. You let both of us live a lie." Daniel's lips moved like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. His silence spoke louder than any excuse ever could. The chaos grew louder. My wedding, once meant to be a day of joy, had crumbled into shouting, tears, and betrayal on display for everyone to witness. And in that moment, I realized there was no hiding from the truth. The secret was out. The illusion of my perfect life was gone, and the whole world was watching as it fell apart. My body shook with pain, but somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, a strange clarity hit me. It was like my heart, though shattered, had finally opened its eyes. If this betrayal came to light before I walked down the aisle, then maybe, just maybe, it was the universe's way of protecting me. A cruel protection, yes, but protection nonetheless. Because what was the alternative? Marrying Daniel, a man who could kiss me one moment and sneak off with my sister the next. Smiling at Emily, believing she was my confidant, while she wore a mask and stabbed me behind my back. No, I would rather face heartbreak today than live a lifetime chained to lies. That thought steadied me. I took a deep, shaky breath, wiped the tears from my face with trembling hands, and slowly stood taller. My shoulders straightened. My voice, though still raw, grew stronger with each word as I turned to face the crowd. "Everyone," I said, my voice cutting through the whispers, "this wedding is off." A collective gasp filled the hall. Chairs creaked as guests leaned forward. Some people clapped their hands to their mouths in shock. My mother sobbed softly behind me, but I didn't waver. I turned to Daniel first. His face was pale, his lips pressed in a tight line, his eyes darting everywhere but mine. "Daniel," I said, my voice sharp with finality, "you will never have another chance to hurt me. You threw away what we had the moment you chose her." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Some people glared at him with disgust. Others whispered his name like it had turned poisonous. Then I looked at Emily, my sister, my blood, my best friend. Or at least, that's what I thought she was. Her face was streaked with tears, her mascara smeared. She shook her head frantically. "Please don't say that," she begged. "I love you. I didn't want to," but I held up my hand, silencing her. "No, you made your choice, and now I'm making mine." My voice wavered, but I pushed through it, letting the words burn the air between us. "You are no longer my sister in my heart." Gasps again. Shocked faces everywhere. Aunts clutched their pearls. Cousins looked at each other wide-eyed. Guests whispered like wildfire, the betrayal spreading from ear to ear. Emily collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel reached down to pull her up, but the sight of them together only hardened me further. Because in that instant, I finally saw the truth. These weren't people who loved me. These were people who used me, who betrayed me, who thought they could shatter me and walk away unscathed. But they were wrong. I lifted my chin and scanned the room. Dozens of eyes were on me. Family, friends, acquaintances, strangers. And instead of shrinking under their gaze, I let them see me, not as the broken bride, not as the victim, but as the woman who refused to be destroyed. "I may have lost a fiancé today," I said, my voice steady, "and I may have lost the sister I thought I had. But what I gained is far more important." The room went quiet, everyone waiting. I gained the truth, and the truth is priceless. For the first time since the nightmare began, I felt strength surge through me. My tears dried, my heart still ached. But beneath the pain was a new foundation, solid, unshakable. My father stepped forward, placing a firm hand on my shoulder. "That's my daughter," he said proudly, his voice thick with emotion. My mother clutched me, crying, but I could feel the pride in her trembling embrace. Guests began to nod, some even clapping softly. Others whispered things like, "She's so strong," and "I can't believe she's handling it like this." Meanwhile, Daniel and Emily stood frozen in shame. For once, they were the ones drowning in the spotlight. Their betrayal was no longer a secret. It was their brand, stamped into their names, and I no longer carried the burden for them. I turned my back to them both, walking away with my family by my side. My gown may have been ruined by tears and heartbreak, but in that moment, I realized something important. The dress didn't make me a bride. My strength did. This wasn't the wedding I dreamed of. It was the funeral of illusions I once clung to. And though I walked away single, I walked away free. That day, when I tore off my veil and walked away from the chaos of my wedding, I thought my entire life had collapsed. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my heart and left nothing but pain. In that moment, I truly believed my story had ended there, in betrayal, humiliation, and loneliness. But now, looking back, I can see the truth. That day wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a brand new chapter. At first, all I could feel was anger. Anger at Daniel for lying. Anger at Emily for betraying me. Anger at myself for not seeing the signs. I replayed every memory in my head, trying to figure out when things started to go wrong. The laughs we shared, the family dinners, the moments when I thought I had people I could trust by my side. All of it felt tainted. But over time, as the tears slowed and the storm inside me quieted, something incredible happened. I started to see their betrayal not as my weakness, but as my freedom. Think about it. What if I had gone through with that wedding? What if I had stood there, smiling in front of everyone, saying vows to a man who had already broken every promise in private? What if I had spent years building a life with someone who had no intention of truly loving me? And what about Emily? Could I imagine a lifetime of confiding in her, leaning on her, trusting her with my future children, with my deepest secrets, knowing she was capable of stabbing me in the back? The truth is, I didn't lose them on my wedding day. I was saved from them. That's the first lesson I learned. Sometimes, what feels like the worst possible ending is actually the greatest rescue you'll ever experience. The second lesson: betrayal doesn't define you. People can lie, cheat, and break your heart, but that says everything about them and nothing about your worth. Daniel's cheating didn't mean I wasn't lovable. Emily's betrayal didn't mean I wasn't a good sister. Their choices didn't lower my value. They just revealed their own. And the third lesson, maybe the hardest one, is this: endings are powerful beginnings. When something shatters, it clears space for something stronger to be built. Walking away that day, I thought I had nothing left. But what I really had was everything that mattered. My dignity, my self-respect, my freedom to choose better for myself. I realized that I would rather be alone with my head held high than chained to people who couldn't honor me. I also realized how deeply loved I was by the people who did stand by me. My parents, who held me through my sobs. My friends, who stayed up with me that night, reminding me I wasn't alone. Even some guests I barely knew came to me later and said, "You were so strong." Their words stuck with me because I didn't feel strong at all. But maybe strength isn't about not crying. Maybe it's about standing up even after your world collapses. Weeks later, I started focusing on myself again. I picked up hobbies I'd forgotten about. I traveled. I reconnected with friends. And slowly, the hole in my heart began to heal. Not because Daniel or Emily came back with apologies. They didn't. But because I finally understood that I didn't need their love to be whole. I learned that my worth isn't measured by whether someone chooses me. It's measured by how I choose myself. So yes, I walked away from that day without a husband. Yes, I lost the sister I thought I had. But what I gained is far greater. I gained wisdom. I gained self-respect. I gained the knowledge that I deserve better. Better love, better loyalty, better people in my life. And that's something no betrayal can ever take away. So if you're listening to my story right now, maybe you've been betrayed too. Maybe you've lost someone you thought you couldn't live without. Let me tell you this: betrayal isn't your ending. It's your beginning, because when people show you who they truly are, you finally have the chance to walk away. And walking away might just be the bravest, strongest, most freeing thing you will ever do. That day, I thought I had nothing left. But now, I see I walked away with the most valuable thing of all, my dignity. And that I'll carry with me forever.